Texas A&M loses a heartbreaker to the Alabama Crimson Tide, and the issues we saw with the secondary against Miami struck again.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ladies and gentlemen, that one hurt. There were points in that game where it looked like the Aggies could win it. Looking back on it, taking a couple minutes to reflect on what just went down, that interception after the Aggies picked off Jalen Milroe really felt like what changed the tide over to the Crimson Tide. And that was a play, not a great play. I didn't like that decision. But I think looking back at this, my immediate thought is you can't, when you get momentum, you're up a touchdown, you get an interception, you got the ball, you go score, make it a 2-possession game. You can't then give that momentum back. We all know how big of a deal momentum is in college football. When you have momentum on your side and then a few bad plays, bad decisions, a turnover gives it back to the other team, that's when things bite you. And that's what happened to the Aggies in this game. There were a few things. I mean, we can sit here and be upset about Evan Stewart trying to catch the football and the official played great defense. That was frustrating. I get it. That was very frustrating. But at the end of the day, that stuff's going to happen. There were a few holding calls I wasn't a fan of, but that stuff doesn't matter. The Aggies did not come out in the second half and play the football game they needed to beat Alabama, and they lost the game. Max Johnson, I thought there were some throws I know he would have liked to have back, but all in all, I think it was a fine game from him. We talked about how there's the whole quarterbacks come down off of, they come in because the starter gets hurt, the backup quarterback that is. The backup comes in because the starter gets hurt, and then you see that second half or whatever, they come into play, they look great, and then they play their next full game, and you're like, oh, okay, I get why they were the backup. I thought that was never going to kind of come to fruition thanks to what we saw against Arkansas. And like I say, I don't know. I mean, looking at the numbers, Max was 14 for 25, 239, a touchdown and a pick. There were a few throws I'd like back, like I said, but I don't think it was a game where it's like we're in trouble with Max Johnson, quarterback in the Aggies. But, there was definitely some frustrating moments in that game from the quarterback position. So I look at this and this one hurts. You were in a position to win that game. You of course drop it. It's a game that would have had you in position in the West, a chance to go win the West. And it really feels like, I don't think you're statistically eliminated at this point, but it just feels deflating knowing that you had that game at your place. Shout out to the 12th man. I mean, the atmosphere at this game was insane. I think that Alabama had about 47 false starts. I mean, you could feel the energy. So there was a lot to be happy about in this game and a lot to be frustrated with. There was all the stuff that we kind of wanted to see happen in this game happened when it comes to making Milroe beat you with his arm, and he did. We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs are the most comfortable shorts I have ever owned. They have long pants, they got shorts, they got shirts, they got everything you could need. Comfortable stuff. They shape your legs. These shorts, they got this material, and it makes you look jacked. I mean, it's awesome. I love these shorts. I highly recommend them. You have got to go check them out. If you do not have a pair of Bird Dogs, go over to Bird Dogs and check them out. I love this clothing. I wear it all the time. I highly recommend it. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege or enter promo code LockedOnCollege at checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. So, heading into the game, we talked about get pressure all game long, and don't let Jalen Milroe beat you with his legs. I thought the Aggies were great today, stopping the run. I mean, in the second half, McClellan started to get going a little bit, but still nothing that really sunk your ship. So they did a good job containing Milroe. I was happy with that. You couldn't let him beat you with his arm, and he beat you with his arm. Burton, it seems, was open a ton. Josh DeBerry, there was a lot of plays that all Aggie fans weren't happy with him, but he did make some good plays, but a lot of costly errors. He got beat a whole bunch by Burton in big-time moments. So the secondary, it was a little I thought that Texas A&M would be getting pressure all game long, to where the secondary didn't, they just had to cover for a little bit. And that was the case on some plays, but then there were some plays where they had some time. There were a few plays where Coach Durkin only sent 3 guys. That happened on the first touchdown, and I wasn't a fan of that, because that's what we saw against Miami. It seemed like every time you really dial up a pressure, that the Aggies were able to get home. So that's a frustrating takeaway for me, is that it did seem like you were getting a lot of pressure, but Milroe had to make some good throws, put the football in places that only his receivers could make the play, and he did that a lot. I was impressed with him. So a good game for Milroe. He made some good throws that really hurt you. I wasn't expecting to see that. I was expecting him to either beat you with his legs or not to beat you at all. So seeing that he was making these throws, finding open receivers, was very frustrating. I was still impressed with the front seven. The offensive line struggled too. I mean, there were a ton of plays where they were pushed back. Max didn't have a ton of time. I think we talked about Max's performance a little bit. I think knowing what he was dealing with pressure-wise, I kind of look at this and I go, he didn't have a ton of time. He made a few good plays with that lack of time. So I feel bad for Max. I don't think he had the best game of his career, but I think that there was a lot that didn't go his way. There was a lot of people in his face, a lot of pressure on him. So I thought he made some good decisions despite that pressure more times than not, but made a few bad decisions that ended up costing the Aggies big time. So we got to regroup. Big game coming up next week against Tennessee. This one hurts a lot. I mean, this hurts a lot. You go into this game, you feel good about it. You go into this game thinking you have a shot to win. You go in halftime with a lead, feel great, and then Alabama just comes out and plays a really good second half. You can't get everything going on offense, and you lose the game. So this one's frustrating. Secondary, there's some question marks there. Still impressed with the front seven. Offensive line was concerning. The run game started to make a few plays, but I wasn't impressed with that. Receivers looked good. Moose made a couple good plays. There were a couple, I wouldn't say drops, I would say tough catches that could have gone the Aggies' way and it would have helped with this football game. But all in all, it's a frustrating loss. This one hurts. We're going to regroup. We're going to figure it out. We will discuss what happened more in depth on Monday's episode of Locked On Aggies, and then we'll get ready to rock and roll for the Tennessee game. I know this one hurts, ladies and gentlemen. Try your best to enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Have a good rest of your weekend, and we will see you on Monday right here on Locked On Aggies.